out in the heart of NASCAR lies the dreams for 10 for a series championship still looking to stay alive. One step remains between those 10 and a chance at glory as the decision time has finally arrived. We're live from the virtual Charlotte Motor Speedway. We welcome you to the deciding race in the round of 10 and the penultimate race of the 4Wide Racing Cup Series in the Season 4 playoffs. Only one left before we officially declare our Championship 5 instilled for Texas Motor Speedway next week. We are so happy to have you join us once again on MaxSpeedTV. We're up here in the broadcast booth in Concord, North Carolina. My name is Kenneth Bueno. This is it. One race between the 10 drivers looking for their championship hopes to remain intact, and that Championship 5 race itself next week at the virtual Texas Motor Speedway. It has been a tumultuous round of 10. We've had many crazy moments, a lot of drama, a lot of big-time impacts in the point standings, and of course our two winners so far will have locked themselves in to that very championship race. And of course, we'll take a look first though, before we get into all the details about the teams and the drivers and everybody involved points-wise going into tonight's race. Why don't we take a look as to where we are in the virtual world with our images, of course, provided to us by Google Earth. You hang low in Charlotte, North Carolina, you go to Concord, North Carolina, not too far away from the main downtown city, you will find this very prestigious 1.5 mile venue. Has been open around since 1959, has been a staple in NASCAR racing to this day. Of course, the Coca-Cola 600 held every single year. The All-Star race, it has been the location for a very long time, since 1992. And obviously as well, also Charlotte Roval race. It's a playoff race over in the fall of October. Tonight, though, it is the very stage with the lights on here in Concord, North Carolina for that very fight to make it into the Championship 5. It's 1.5 miles long, 2.4 kilometers, a banking of 24 degrees in the turns, 5 degrees on the straightaways. It's a quadruple configuration, which means we will share the same shape as the virtual Texas Motor Speedway 1 week from tonight. Of course, this track very different though in its configuration. We'll talk about Texas and all its uniqueness by the time we get closer to the end of tonight's show. But frankly, there is the biggest conversation to be had about tonight: the playoff standings and how they fare after our first two races in the round of 10. You see the two names highlighted in blue and orange in a gradient color. Those two advanced into the playoffs. Eric Schaefer, via his insane win at Darlington 2 weeks ago in the first race of the round of 10, he's clear for the Championship 5, and his teammate Brandon Banks will join him after a incredible last few laps of the Talladega Superspeedway. Went green basically all the way to the end, and Banks pulled out a clutch move with help from teammate Lawson Peel to get to the checkered flag, and we are looking at a feverish war between Drinkin' Bros Racing and Stonks Motorsports. That war has basically developed over the past couple of weeks in the playoffs, and we've seen these two titans go at it. Right now, Drinkin' Bros Racing has the most amount of drivers in that championship fight. Lawson Peel has not won a race in the round of 10 to lock into the Championship 5 race just yet, but a lot of that momentum from the win at Rockingham in the first round of 15 definitely has helped him, and he holds a 17-point margin, a very healthy stretch all the way down to that cut line, and we have 17 drivers in tonight's race. So I think even with the bonus points that will be handed out to the top 5 in the halfway mark of tonight's event, Lawson Peel, if he holds himself strong, and he is here in the sim for the race tonight, he should be coast is clear basically all the way to that championship finale. Just needs an uneventful one here tonight in order to advance to the Texas Motor Speedway and go for his first ever 4Wide Racing Cup Series title. And then come the Stonks Motorsports Brigade. AJ Green, your defending champion, holding a 3-point gap all the way to that cut line. It gets very tight around where his two teammates are. 5th and 6th, Colin Forster in the 99. He wrecked coming to the Trioval on the final lap. Still finished rather well, but now he holds a 1-point margin over the top 5, and that is, of course, over his teammate Lance Hill, who was 1 point back. And then we get to the other drivers in this mix. Jesse Prees, he's had a lot of consistency, but he goes into tonight's race 8 points below that stable cut line. Mark Harris is 13 points down in 8th. Craig Lautenslager, we've seen some highlights out of him, especially out of Talladega last week, but coming out of that race, he holds a 15-point deficit to that top 5, and Cody Kinsey was not at the Talladega race in sim, so he drops all the way back to 10th, and he is a total of 51 points. Basically, in a must-win scenario, he needs a checkered flag and nothing more. Maybe some points could help, but he does need a checkered flag in order to make it to the Championship 5. Kinsey in a situation with his back against the wall. We'll see if he can do it tonight from the virtual Charlotte Motor Speedway. Well, field is in the hands of the iRacing official pace car, and the field is ready to get set for our penultimate race in Season 4 of the 4Wide Racing Cup Series, and we're ready to take you trackside to see exactly where every driver and your favorite driver will be lining up here tonight from the home of NASCAR to capitalize off the round of 10. AJ Green, this is a performance you need from qualifying, holding that 3-point gap, a pole speed with a 30.178. He sets the fastest time in qualifying. He will be the first to see the green flag. But then there's a non-playoff spoiler to his outside. The 53 of Kevin D'Elia sitting a lap in the 30.221 range. He'll be on the outside of row number 1 when we go green. Teammate Lance Hill starts inside top 3. He hasn't loaded in quite yet into the line, but he needs a stellar performance tonight, being that 1 point below the cut line to his teammate Colin Forster. He will have 17 points to the good. Lawson Peel on his outside in P number 4. Jaden Porter, rookie driver, is inside the top 5. He is in the inside of row number 3, and he'll have Stonks Motorsports Colin Forster in the 99 to his outside in P6. Craig Lownslugger in the 13, Eric Schaefer in the 22. Two very different playoff storylines. Schaefer, of course, locked into the championship 5. Nothing to worry about as he starts 8th, but Lownslugger, again, still more than 10 points below that cut line. He needs a good one here tonight as he rolls off from that 7th spot. Christopher Bishop, Kyle Benson, 2 drivers inside the top 10. Both of them non-playoff drivers, but Benson, you remember the redemption arc that he's trying to look for here from Charlotte after losing the championship fight just a couple of seasons back in season number 2. The last time we held the championship here at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. Joe Sanchez returns with some action tonight. He rolls off P11. He'll have playoff driver Brandon Banks coming off of that win from Talladega. Remember, he is officially locked in to the championship 5, so no worries on behalf of the 88. Michael Newbrock, Cody Kinsey, 13th and 14th on the race grid. Cody Kinsey, again, mentioning he needs that very win to get him into the championship 5. Final ones into the 16-car field. Playoff driver Jesse Breeze, and also fellow playoff competitor Mark Harris, the 00 and the 5. The 2 to round out your 16-car field. Not many drivers in this field tonight. Of course, that is to assist the likes of Lawson Peel in the 12. But for everyone else, they'll be looking for their scenario to go their way to enter the championship, and it all comes to a decision right here from Charlotte. 167 laps on tap here tonight from the home of NASCAR. 2 Bowtie Chevrolets to lead us to green for the first time. AJ Green, Kevin D'Elia to the green flag. We're underway in the penultimate race of Season 4. Clean through lap 1. They were almost 3 wide, entering that main quad over the start-finish line. They're door-to-door for 3rd. Lawson Peel holding the outside. That is Lance Hill on the very bottom. Hill going to be able to take that spot away for a moment. And now here comes teammate Colin Forster to work to the inside. They're still side-by-side, a couple of rows deep. As you watch Jaden Porter, I believe, work his way underneath. That's Eric Schaefer in the 22. Craig Lownslugger, the 13, on the rear side of this. And that Dale Earnhardt Sr. throwback. You'll have Kyle Benson up top in the 10. Field wiggles at a turn 4. And AJ Green clear for the race lead as now they go side by side for 2nd. Right on board here with the number 38, Lance Hill, who holds 2nd, and now Lawson Peel with a big run out of turn 2. Gonna push the 99 here, maybe help around the 53 of Kevin D'Elia. Remember, of course, our Stonks Motorsports trio, all of them facing a very unique situation up against each other. And I talked about the duel between this team and Drinkin' Bros Racing. There's gonna be some infighting here around this 167-lap race between those 3. We'll keep tabs on them. But so far, AJ Green pulling away with the lead, and the fact that they're battling right now side by side for position behind that 48, it is only helping Green's scenario to run away. They have severely packed in. One car gets very loose at the exit of turn 2. I believe that was Jesse Breeze in the 00. He falls to 14th, and now here they go, 3 wide, almost about in turns 3 and 4. Eric Schaefer working to the inside for position. And And a very tactile approach there from the 22. Of course, he is locked in, so he has no worries about making this championship 5. He's already got his plan set for Texas Motor Speedway, but why not put yourself in a battle? Maybe even help your teammates along the way and put a little bit of a slice into what now has become sort of a Stonks Motorsports dominating first 5 laps, with all of them 1, 2, and 4 on the racetrack. They're side by side, 4 position behind the top 5. Kyle Benson on the inside, that is underneath, or rather, Kyle Benson on the outside, Jaden Porter down low. The 28 sporting a very new paint scheme here tonight from the virtual Charlotte Motor Speedway. Right on board with the 213 Simware Camaro of Kyle Benson. Not a playoff driver, but looking for a win and looking for some momentum for the rest of season 4, working into season 5. He is one of the championship 5 drivers who will run for the title next week at the virtual Texas Motor Speedway for the ARCA series. So I think there's some positives there if you're Kyle Benson, but obviously in the Cup Series, not running for the playoffs, but still, nice opening 7 laps so far as they cross the line back into turn 1 for Benson, as he holds strong just behind the 12 of Lawson Peel. And finally, as they've single filed out and removed all the battling, this has stifled the gain there for AJ Green. It was about 0.3 of a second. It's now fallen to 0.2 of a second, and his teammate Lance Hill trying to chase him down. He's bringing the tow. The 53, the 99, the 22. We may have a battle, though, for position for the top 3, as Kevin D'Elia had a faulty turn 4, washed up the track, and now here comes Forrester for a move down low. Talking with some of the drivers last week at the end of the Talladega Super Speedway race, we had some mention that this was going to be Lawson Peel's playground, the intermediate track. And here tonight, of course, our first appearance in season 4 at the virtual Charlotte Motor Speedway. But that's not to say that we haven't had rough 1.5-mile tracks on the circuit in previous history. Remember, at Atlanta Motor Speedway, we raced at the old configuration of that, not the Super Speedway version that's out right now on the iRacing platform. That track definitely tested the drivers, but that was in the regular season. Tonight, though, obviously a very big difference in the pressure that's given to most of the field as Eric Schaefer works to the inside. A falling Kevin D'Elia here. He's trying to hold up strong up top, but it's not looking like it's working whatsoever. And in 3 and 4, that car has gone awfully tight and has brushed up against that outside safer barrier. That is one thing we're going to be talking about here tonight from Charlotte as you ride on board with Eric Schaefer holding on for P4, is the way these cars handle. Of course, last week at Talladega, you don't have to worry about downforce because you're going full throttle. It's a super speedway, but for most of the season, we've dealt with this configuration. 670 horsepower, and that 4-inch spoiler at the rear end of the race car for this next-gen Cup machines. And here in Charlotte, you do have to slow down, you have to roll through the corners, so over the long runs, it's going to be a very big talking point. But one thing also to mention is that exit out of turn 4. We've talked about some treacherous spots in previous races. You think about turn 2 at Darlington, you think about turn 4 at Nashville Super Speedway, you think about turn 2 to the back straightaway at the Rockingham Speedway. How many guys struggle with the exit off of the banking going to the straightaway? Tonight, it's turn 4, biggest problem of the entire track. Turn 2 seems to be a little more forgiving, but once you dive in as you ride on board, here with this 22, it bottoms out. This car gets very tight on the big setup, and it wants to go up to that outside wall and do nothing else. Coming over the crest of that hill, you can also get a snap of oversteer as well, coming out of that final corner to that main quad oval front straightaway and the start-finish line. So keep in mind where those drivers are handling-wise by the time we're deep into a run. And already 12 laps in, you can tell the condition of most of the drivers, including that 53 of D'Elia, like we mentioned, falling through the field. He's now down tonight, and there is Craig Lownslugger on the inside. He's trying to bring in Joe Sanchez with him at 55 of the black and red Paul setup shop Camaro, and they're also trying to bring in the 42 of Christopher Bishop as of lap 12. So D'Elia basically getting freight train here in the opening handful of laps, and he has since not been able to stop the bleeding. Here we go, three-way battle for third. Colin Forrester holding on the bottom, and Eric Schaefer changing his line in 1 and 2, but it's going to work. He's going to bring his Drinking Bros Racing teammate Lawson Peel with him, and we talked about the instrumental cooperation between the Drinking Bros Racing guys, especially as of late. The teammate work that they've been able to do, especially against the Stonks Motorsports group, who at some glances definitely look like the strongest team. But Drinking Bros Racing has had a save for it ever since the drop of the green in this round of 10. They have flipped the switch, and now 2 of their drivers, including that 22 on screen you're seeing right now, locked in to that championship race. And we talk about the gap of points that Lawson Peel has above that cut line. This is helping, introducing themselves into the top 3, breaking away the Stonks Motorsports teammates one by one. And and seeing how that's all going to work later on in tonight's race. You ride on board this time with second place driver Lance Hill, and he has caught up to your race leader. In fact, it's rather staying even. We talked about the 0.2 of a second gap a couple laps ago between himself and your race leader AJ Green. It has since stayed that way. It's stuck underneath a 0.1 of a second here and there across the racetrack, but Hill is setting comparative laps here to that 48. So you may watch out for Hill, who of course is not in desperate needs of a win tonight from Charlotte, but a win of course always helps. It always stops all the pressure and gets the weight off of the shoulders. Now we go battling for the top 5. Forster, remember him getting passed by Schaefer and Lance Hill coming out, or rather Eric Schaefer, Lawson Peel coming out of turn 2, but now he's got more company. Jaden Porter though up into the outside wall. That's Kyle Benson, Joe Sanchez, Craig Lautenslugger as they go side by side for position for 6. And Sanchez works the outside. Porter finally gets out of harm's way in that safer barrier, although he will fall all the way to P9, the rookie driver, trying to get back in it. And Craig Lautenslugger working to the outside of Kyle Benson, coming out of turn 4. It's going to get very close there between the two. However, they will keep themselves green flag racing. One thing, though, to note about this 13 of Craig Lautenslugger, it's not the usual look you usually see out of the 13, and you can obviously see why. Number one, he's driving a Dale Earnhardt Sr. paint scheme, one that he has not run all season long. But number two, he's driving a Chevrolet. The first time that at least I've seen Craig Lautenslugger run a Chevrolet in the 4Wide Racing Cup Series. We're usually accustomed to seeing the bright red Toyota Camry with the AMD Ryzen sponsorship on the hood of the race car, but this time a different look. I guess trying to channel some of that Intimidator energy to get up through that cut line and get above that top 5 as he makes a swimming pass above, or rather under the 99. Of course, struggled a bit in that last lap or so that Martini Racing number 99 did. So Lautenslugger moves his way up to 6, and Porter again some struggles out of turn 2. He will fall out of the battle between himself and Kyle Benson, and now here comes Lautenslugger inside for P5 on Joe Sanchez. Of course, Lautenslugger, one of the better drivers on the 1.5-mile tracks, and had some highlights at Talladega Superspeedway. We saw him running up front, commanding some lines, but unfortunately it did not pan out to his favor, and so Lautenslugger just trying to pick things back up. We saw a lot of strength out of him in that first round, the round of 15, the two very abrasive, sort of intermediate tracks in Rockingham and Darlington Raceway. Rather, not Darlington, Rockingham and Nashville Superspeedway, although Darlington did kind of go his way at first, but sort of fell to the wayside for him in the last half or so in this race. He remains side by side with Sanchez. That is, of course, for P5, before you get to the 22 of Eric Schaefer, who currently holds that 4th spot. But Lautenslugger trying to pick things up at this 1.5-mile track, and so far it looks like it is going to his favor. He's going to have to keep that momentum up in the next 147 laps. That is still a very long way. And of course, pit stops in the reins as well. We may have cautions, and so that may come into effect as well. But over the first 20, AJ Green, so far the most dominant driver. We talked about him being pressured by his teammate Lance Hill. Now the gap is starting to check out once again. 0.3 of a second between Green and Hill. And they're also slowly bringing in that 12 of Lawson Peel, who's about roughly a second behind your race leader. And Peel, ever since checking out from that battle between Sanchez, Schaefer, and company, as you take a look at this entire group that goes all the way back to 11th on the racetrack. Brandon Banks being the very last one in this entire group. They have basically separated themselves, and now that they don't have any pressure from any oncoming traffic or anyone trying to make moves, it is definitely helping their case. As Schaefer, I think, has been a pillar here when it comes down to this playoff battle. Again, you look at the drivers in their point standing situations. Colin Forster, he's in a situation where he has to hold that 1-point gap over his teammate Lance Hill into the top 5. Craig Lautenslugger, who needs a good amount of points to get over that top 5 hump, and he's being pressured by the 22, a Drinkin' Bros Racing driver who's locked into the championship 5. It has become a game somewhat of collusion here between the teams, and it is working to Schaefer's favor, although this time out of turn 4, he may have another car to worry about in the form of Joe Sanchez, the 55 car, who has gotten a win this season. Lautenslugger, though, will look to the inside, and that may be a completed pass for 4th out of turn 2. Not going to be able to do so as Sanchez gets to run out of the 24 degrees of banking, but for now, Lautenslugger holding the pressure down low. Sanchez will stay up top, and they will bring in the 22 and company, so the pack will stay rather formed and only losing more time to third on forward to your race leader. Here's Brandon Banks making a move underneath Kyle Benson. That is for the entrance into the top 10. Banks, of course, locked in via the win at Talladega. An unbelievable way to get to the checkered first, as they were basically nose to tail the entire field with 2 laps to go, and then it all broke apart. Kyle Benson trying to get into that fight. He got turned going into turn 3, and Brandon Banks, with help from his teammate Lawson Peel, they easily got to the front of the field, got over the Stonks Motorsports duo, and that was history to the start-finish line. Peel made contact with Forster coming out into the tri-oval, and then it was Lance Hill and Brandon Banks, the only 2 left. Hill could not mount a good enough charge to get to the 88, and Brandon Banks, now the story is told. He's locked in to the Championship 5, and this will be the 2nd time in a row, 2 seasons, where Brandon Banks makes a Championship 5 race. But at the same time, you also think about the other guys that were a part of that championship battle. AJ Green is here for a reason. He's your defending champion going into season 4 and is still trying to hold on to that playoff cut line. And I think this performance right now over the first 26, easily leading this race by a healthy margin, now around 0.7 of a second to the 38 of Hill. This is a performance that needs to be done, a standout one. In fact, to be at the helm of the ship, and if he can get that win, it'll add on to his win list so far this season, as he has picked up a total of 2 wins on the calendar. His first one coming at the Richmond Raceway, his second coming at Daytona in the final races of the regular season. So Green is needing this performance right now, holding on to first, and it's doing a solid job of just that. This, though, is going to hurt Lance Hill, as he had somewhat of a gap over Colin Forster, but he may lose a point here as the 12 of Lawson Peel has caught up. A lot of the long run pace coming out of this Cobalt Chevrolet. And again, I'll touch on that point that I made earlier. Some drivers in the interviews in the top 3 last week at Talladega said this is where Lawson Peel is at his best. Lawson Peel is good at these intermediate tracks, is good where the asphalt is a little rougher than natural, and you have to really pedal the car and hold your discipline, as Peel will modulate the throttle and will make that pass complete on the 38 of Lance Hill. So move Lawson Peel, your 6-time winner, over to P2, as they are still tussling around this top 5 and even the latter half of the top 10. Jaden Porter working underneath now resurging Kevin D'Elia. So 53 has done a nice job of getting back into this battle, or rather, I think D'Elia made a stop on pit road. He is 2 laps down, so he's just weaving through on some fresh rubber, but that is poking a hole here. And now Porter looks to the inside. Eric Schaefer can't quite do it, and now finds the space in turn 1. Jaden Porter, of course, a rookie driver this year in the 4Wide Racing Cup Series, and picked up a win quickly at the Nashville Superspeedway in the playoffs. And so Porter trying to get back to victory lane if he can do it for his own team. Brady Weileman joining him. They're both teammates now for Baqueal Bueno Racing. And the 28, not joined by the 44 this evening here tonight from Charlotte, but the 28 trying to put up a solid performance as he goes for a crossover. This time outside here on Eric Schaefer. Was watching the weave around there. Kevin D'Elia on the fresh rubber. We may have a say there. Schaefer gets way tight up on the racetrack, and he's going to get turned to the inside wall by his teammate. 2 of the drivers locked in to the Championship 5 get together at lap 30. Of course, this is not going to affect the championship implication for either Schaefer or Banks. But as Schaefer got tight, washed up the track, Porter made a move up top. Banks tried to make a move down low to make it 3 wide. And it comes at the expense of the 22, as he will limp his Chevy Camaro to the entrance of pit road. Some severe tolling damage on the left front. And we'll see how it all happened, although you basically saw it at the exit of turn 2. Watch the 22 right in the middle of the corner. Will wash up the track. Jaden Porter gets the run, and then here comes the 88 down low, makes the contact, and you could tell Banks was backing out. He knew it was trouble by the time he got to the rear end, but he had made contact all too late. That's exactly the catalyst for what could have been our first caution tonight. Since Schaefer got into the wall that is underneath the racing line on the apron, it will stay green. Here's a look on board from Schaefer. Nothing you could do if you're Schaefer there. just trying to hold on to the car and also making sure he doesn't get into Jaden Porter on the way up the 24 degrees of banking. He just picked up his faster pair, but he will be lapped on the racetrack. AJ Green and company getting around. There's a look at your leader, the 48, Kevin D'Elia, who's trying to unlap himself to be one lap down on the racetrack. He made a quick stop on pit road in the opening 33 laps of this race, so this is not in effect for track position, but it is going to be rather a big deal here, as it looks like Lawson Peel has stepped down, or rather, he's had some trouble. Lawson Peel, Mark Harris, two playoff drivers in trouble in the same place where Eric Schaefer hit the inside wall. Peel was running second. Now the caution comes out. And I'm not sure whether it was any more trouble that caused the yellow, but Lawson Peel and Mark Harris get into trouble. There's a look at Harris as he comes on to pit road, but that car is severely torn up. And no doubt about it, I figure Lawson Peel and Mark Harris are both going to use the faster pair. Peel overshoots his stall, and we are under caution for the first time here from Charlotte. And we'll see what happened. Peel, of course, was running second, and it was Kevin D'Elia that broke the rhythm up for the 12. D'Elia on fresh rubber. He gets by the 12. Decides to stay up outside of the racetrack. And we talk about the crest. The exit of turn 4 is so dangerous with these cars, especially when you wear the rear tires out. And that's exactly what happened to Peel. Got over the hill out of the 24 degrees of banking. Got loose, overcorrected the race car. And that was enough to set it into motion. But the problem is, Mark Harris and company are coming up on this 12, who's staying on the racetrack, trying to weave down low under the apron. They're slowing down for the trouble, but it's right there. The 12 gets loose, overcorrects it, goes up the track. Mark Harris, nowhere to go, and as he tries to weave out of harm's way, he finds himself into the outside wall on the back straightaway. Take a look at this. Similar to Brady Weileman's accident at Darlington out of turn 2. Remember the save that he made. But as soon as you yaw this NASCAR Next Gen car past a certain threshold, it will not listen to any of your inputs whatsoever. And Mark Harris, Lawson Peel, both getting faster pairs, no doubt about it. And now here's the field on a pit road. AJ Green, your race leader, coming in. He will be your race leader coming out. But a stellar pit stop by Craig Lounslager almost put him second. But he'll end up P3 on the racetrack. So some huge implications on the playoffs. We talk about Lawson Peel holding his 17-point margin over Mark Harris. And I figure that's not the biggest concern if you're Peel, because this field is only 16, or rather 17 cars deep. So it's not necessarily the largest field to severely impact the playoff performance of Peel, but this crash certainly is going to help, and using the faster pair before we're even well under halfway in the race is going to be a big shunt for Peel, although I figure that Peel may be welcoming the challenge. We saw it happen at Rockingham, where he got into trouble on his own accord and had the same thing happen to him at a turn 2, where he got loose, overcorrected the race car, slammed the outside wall, had some toe link damage, got the faster pair, came back in the race, and ended up winning. But my biggest concern is going to be Mark Harris in the 5 car. Remember, he is deep within the playoff standings going into tonight. He's a total of 13 points down. And this scenario, which is going to put him dead last on the lead lap here once they get the wave around, it is not going to help from what has been so far not the greatest running for the driver of that 5. Mark Harris, of course, getting into the playoffs via his win at the Auto Club Speedway. And he has yet to visit victory lane since. Well, the 5 has been bent on staying in the playoff fight. And that crash may be a dagger into the performance for the next 130 laps for the 5. We'll just have to see, but it is a huge hit and one that he definitely did not need with the points gap going into tonight's race. Of course, at halfway, we will have points awarded to our top 5. And Mark Harris, if he's not in that top 5, this would definitely not help him, as everybody else would get those extra playoff points, and that will help their case for wherever they are. We talk about that Stonks Motorsports trio hanging around the cut line, But you also got to think about guys like Harris, guys like Jesse Priest, guys like Craig Lownslugger, even Cody Kinsey, who's now in a P12, that bright purple Sparko Chevrolet. He's in a must-win scenario here tonight. So any implications between these crashes and what happens here, especially over the first 37 so far, they're going to mean a lot. They're going to mean a huge deal in the bigger picture going into Texas, and it could make that difference between staying in the playoffs and having to sit home and watch the Championship 5 go for the title next week at the virtual Texas Motor Speedway. There's Lawson Peel, who is officially listed as 1 lap down on the track. He is going to take an extra step down a pit road this time through, and so that will obviously hurt track position more. Lawson Peel going to need another caution to get back on the lead lap. And such a stark contrast now from what it was just a couple of laps ago before that first yellow wave. Lawson Peel was running second and arguably had the best long run speed out of any car in the field. But now he's going to have to work himself all the way from the rear. And it will be Stonks Motorsports once again occupying the top 2. It'll be AJ Green and Lance Hill on row number 1. They'll be joined behind them by Craig Lownslugger. Of course, we talked about his gap going into tonight to the bad, to that top 5. Jaden Porter, rookie driver, has entered the top 4. So a nice move up here for the number 28. He'll have Joe Sanchez and Kyle Benson occupying row number 3. And then it would be Colin Forster, Brandon Banks here, row number 4. Jesse Priest and Christopher Bishop, the 00 and the 42. Going to be the final ones into your current top 10. So caution between Lawson Peel and Mark Harris. Bring us under yellow for the first time here tonight in the penultimate race of the 4Wide Racing Cup Series in Season 4. But your AJ Green, as the 38 just went around, lit up the rear tires on the restart, and he goes for a spin. That is going to reignite the caution flag. Jesse Priest is in it as well. And some more drama and more playoff implications as 2 more playoff drivers get involved at lap 39. What has happened on the restart? We can also attach Joe Sanchez in this mix as well, inside of row number 3, but it all started right here. AJ Green goes for the green flag. He'll try to anticipate, and I'm not sure whether there was a faulty shift. Craig Lownslugger also picked up damage in that as well, so there could be some damage repair on behalf of the 13. But for the 38, a bizarre scenario you watch on board. This is first gear coming back to the restart. No misshift whatsoever going up through second gear. The car just lost the rear end. And he goes around as Jesse Priest also in trouble as well. And he had the same situation happen to him, although much worse, slamming the outside wall. Here's a look on board from Jesse Priest in the 00. Right there, snaps, tries to save it, and had nothing to do after that. A passenger there as the 00 goes for a spin. And this will again affect the playoff picture going into that first caution. Lance Hill was in the Championship 5 via points. As here he comes down pit road, he is now behind Mark Harris in the 5, so that's also going to mean something large as well. Jesse Priest is coming down pit road. I also looked at Joe Sanchez, the 55, coming down in for service, so there they all are. I'm not sure whether fast repairs will be warranted for any one of these guys. Not enough damage to warrant that, but of course, they are going to come down pit road just for safety of staying aerodynamically competent here in the rest of the race. Of course, you don't want any big damage to affect you by the time you enter a long run, and as the tires start to fall off, it's only going to exacerbate the problem. I've seen many cases where the right front has been ticked and tacked off of the outside wall, but then as soon as that right front starts to wear, that car only gets worse. And frankly, it's worse handling than if you did not have any damage on the right side. Of course, that right front is still going to be screaming for grip, but the damage is only going to not make it worse. It's only going to just stabilize it, at least for the moment, as the tires fall off. We are under caution once again for the virtual Charlotte Motor Speedway. Only 40 laps completed in tonight's event. So we talk about the drama of last week, Talladega Superspeedway, and it was an unbelievable race from start to finish. Here was the green flag. It was pole sitting with Christopher Bishop at the front of the field set the fastest time in qualifying. Austin Reedy to his outside in that first row. And Austin Reedy had been one of the most aggressive drivers all evening long. And here's what brought out our first and only caution from the 2.66 mile super speedway. It was Tyler Murray contact with the Drinking Bros Racing entry of Michael Newbraw. Both of them going for a slam into the outside wall. Murray would be able to pick it up later on in the race, but things got very hectic at the front of the field ever since. This was lap 40, 4 wide, 4 position in the mid-pack. Craig Lownslugger in the hornet's nest of that. Austin Reedy, Brady Weileman, Kevin DeLeo, all of them remarkably keeping things clean, and the racing just remained as good as you can ask for from a place like Talladega. This was a look at the final pit stop entry with 19 laps to go. That was the first batch of drivers coming in. It was a Drinking Bros Racing camp and everybody staying out, and then the field got brought back together with 3 laps to go. And then here was the run all the way to the finish. Kyle Benson, you had to give him credit for the amount of effort he put up and the strength at the super speedway. Here was the pivotal change for position. Kevin DeLeo, Brandon Banks and company leaving Colin Forster for dead, stranded all by himself at the inside line. Lance Hill holding out up top, and then the Stonks Motorsports drivers will be reunited on that final lap. Now what a run to the finish this was. Any one of the wins could have locked him into the championship 5. Look at the huge run that Brandon Banks gets with his teammate Lawson Peel. They were working together all evening long, those Drinking Bros Racing guys, but here is where it all came to a satisfying conclusion. Coming to the white flag, AJ Green assisting Kyle Benson. And then this was the final lap, turn 3, turn 4. Kyle Benson getting turned, and it was these guys left. Lawson Peel giving a push to Brandon Banks, trying to block a huge run from the Stonks Motorsports duo, and then contact ensued coming to the tri-oval between the 99 and the 12. Nowhere for Lance Hill to get a run out of the final handful of hundred of feet, and it was Brandon Banks coming across the line first. He was dead last in the round of 10 in the point standings before that race, and he came away victorious. His first win of the season became the 12th different winner in the 4-Wide Racing Cup Series in Season 4. But of course, most importantly, got the win to lock himself into the Championship 5 at Texas 1 week from tonight. Brandon Banks will restart 6th. When we get the green flag, we should get it this time by, as the lights are out on the iRacing official pace car. Just an update on the drivers involved in that incident. Joe Sanchez is the highest running driver in 12th on behalf of that group. Lance Hill has fallen back to 13th. Eric Schaefer was slightly involved in that contact. He is 14th. Jesse Prees rounds out your top 15, and the caution did not come with a positive for Lawson Peel. He does not get the wave around, so he will remain 1 lap down. So once again, it'll be leader AJ Green to the green flag. This time around, lap 43, he will have rookie driver Jaden Porter, though, joining him on the outside via the hiccup from his teammate Lance Hill. It'll be Craig Lautenslager, who surprisingly did not pick up a lot of damage on that restart crash. He looks remarkably clean, that Camaro does. He'll be joined by Kyle Benson in that second row to give assistance. We'll see if drama arises out of the next restart. Fortunately, it does not look to be the case. Green flag back in the air from Charlotte. AJ Green with a strong start to lead the field back to turn 1. A look at the field out of turn 2. Jaden Porter holding on for second, but what a restart it was for the 10 of Kyle Benson. Started on the outside of that third row, or rather the second row, and has picked things up and may have a chance against that 28 of Jaden Porter in a moment. Christopher Bishop, Joe Sanchez going at it for position behind them. But so far, AJ Green trying to run away with the lead, and here comes Colin Forster to the inside of the 13. Forster staying underneath that 13. This is a battle for 4th on the racetrack. And Forster must be loving the situation he's in right now. Of course, not loving the fact that his teammate was involved in that crash on the restart, but is liking the fact that I think as of now, he is in the fight for the Championship 5, so he is back in contention. If the race ended like this right now, and the checkered flag waved at lap 45, Forster would be into the championship race. It would be his second straight appearance, along with his teammate AJ Green, if AJ Green stays up front in tonight's event. And with the drama surrounding Lawson Peel, there may be some problems there, as Peel will stay 1 lap down. He will need another caution before this race is all said and done if he wants to get back in contention for the race win. On board with the 99 of Forster, everybody hugging that blue and white line down low. And one thing about the Charlotte Motor Speedway, seen with these next-gen cars and even with the Gen 6 cars in previous history, that line, that painted blue and white line, even in real life, has brought some extra grip on the left side of the race car. You think so much about the Harvick line getting some extra grip on the white line at Atlanta Motor Speedway before it was repaved and reconfigured. You have somewhat of the same effect, Atlantification effect, if we can call it that, here from Charlotte. You hug your left sides on that blue and white paint, and it gives you some extra grip, allows you to roll the corner better. And if you watch the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing series, when they were here earlier in 2022, Malik Ray was using that line to perfection, gave him a lot of speed and consistency, and was one of the best drivers all night long, apart from that little strategy part that took him out of the run for the race win. But that blue and white line, you may have to look out for it, and that may be the place you want to arc yourself in, although the dirty air here on behalf of Forster certainly isn't helping. They have continued to stay, though, to the back end of this 48. The 28 of Jaden Porter with Benson, Forster, and Craig Launslager in tow. This top 5 is broken away from everybody else. 6 on back, now occupied by Joe Sanchez. They're staying in range. 48, so maybe Green not really pushing the issue this time by, or maybe the speed is just that even at the moment this early on into the run. Kyle Benson holding strong outside on Colin Forster. He defends that spot to stay in the top 3. So this top 5 will continue to break away. We'll monitor if there are any changes. Might be one here out of turn 2. A striking move from the 99 of Forster. A huge send in the middle of 1 and 2 will get him to the outside for 3rd. He'll make the pass complete. And guess what? His teammate back in the top 10. Lance Hill made the move on the 55. And here's an onboard look from the Moose.org Chevrolet as he clears Sanchez and company. Will try to run down everybody in the top 5 ahead of him. And also with the fact that Hill and company were involved in that caution, I think they did take some 4 fresh Goodyear Eagles, so they wasted that extra set, a tongue twister there, or an extra set potentially here. These guys did. So they've got 4 fresher tires on your race leaders that may help them put in some faster laps in as they come across the line. We'll take a look at your lap times. Lance Hill will come across now. His timing officially set at 30.535, and your leader AJ Green with a 30.741. So indeed, a tire discrepancy for the guys up 6 on back as Kyle Benson makes a move around Jaden Porter. That was actually a slight move to set him into 3rd. So Colin Forster made the move first and opened the door there for Benson. And now here comes Forster, a solid run at a turn 4, and he's got eyes on his very teammate for P1. We talk about consistency that Stonks Motorsports has held throughout the Season 3 campaign and even Season 4 with these NASCAR Next Gen cars, of course, getting a championship and having most of their team into that championship 5 at Atlanta Motor Speedway. You think about AJ Green, of course, ended up as the eventual champion. Colin Forster, who joined him there. Adam Alashire, who was a part of that Stonks Motorsports group. 3 out of the 5 were in the running for the title last year, and now in a position where they can have their teammates get back in contention, although obviously a stronger wave from Drinkin' Bros Racing to hold up against them. But Stonks Motorsports have been very good, and they've had a lot of shiny moments with these next-gen cars. You could think about the moments where there were almost wins, and there were just dominating performances that maybe didn't result in wins. I think immediately back to Darlington a couple of weeks back, AJ Green led the most laps outright. But the tire strategy, the yellows falling, and of course the fact that he was involved in that last caution did not help him whatsoever. I think of Colin Forster, could have gotten his first win in the 2nd race of the entire season, or rather the 3rd race at Auto Club Speedway, but then got passed by Mark Harris in the final corners to avoid that 99 and deny him a chance at playoff eligibility immediately at the start of the season. And it took all the way to Chicagoland, 13 starts into the Season 4 campaign, where then, only then, was Forster able to get that checkered flag and lift the weight off of his shoulders. Stonks Motorsports trying to be that force like they were in Season 3 and get back in that championship fight. You ride on board with one who needs them to be gone from the championship fight, Craig Launslager, who looks to make his first championship 5 appearance after a little while, and maybe looking for his first win after a while. I think Iowa was the last time we saw this 13 get to the checkered flag first. And so a lot riding on the 13 in this scenario. is going to help. Side by side for second, Forster and Kyle Benson going at it. Jaden Porter, the third car in the mix. And Lounslugger looking to the outside. The Martini Racing 99 again. This top 5 still breaking away from everybody on back. It's Lance Hill, Joe Sanchez and company still trying to catch up. Although Lance Hill has put himself in his own league compared to Mark Harris and company, as Sanchez has fallen to 8th. Mark Harris has been able to pick up that spot. Maybe a battle here around the exit of the top 10. Indeed there is. Here comes Kinsey inside of Kevin D'Elia, turn 3. Watch the overhead cam. Here's Eric Schaefer to give some assistance to his Drinking Bros Racing teammate. And they have another teammate behind them, the 00 Jesse Priest. And then another teammate behind them, the 12 of Lawson Peel, who's trying to get back in this race. Although he is still one lap down on the racetrack. That is not going to help. Schaefer is going to clear in front of the 53. So clear headway here for Kinsey. And in a way, we talked about Schaefer putting a foot into this championship run. The top 3, Stocks Motorsports, as D'Elia, it's a little bit understeery out of turn 4. He'll open the door there for Jesse Priest and Lawson Peel to move alongside outside of the racetrack to get in front of that 53. These two definitely have the advantage. They've got themselves locked in the championship 5, so they can somewhat manipulate the draft, manipulate the traffic, and manipulate the race if they can. Obviously, right now, not in play with the fact that they're so far behind the Stocks Motorsports guys that are running for the top 5. However, they can still play a big factor later on in this race. Schaefer had a lot of speed to start in the opening 30-odd laps of the race before that first caution came out. Brandon Banksy's had some speed as well. Hasn't done anything crazy tonight, but you wouldn't expect much out of him, although they have the opportunity to affect this run for the championship and make sure that those Stocks Motorsports guys do not have an easy entry into the championship race. Again, I talked about it with Francisco 1 week ago at Talladega. You would want the most amount of your teammates in the field with you. Like, again, Stocks Motorsports having 3 out of the 5 at Atlanta. You want to have that scenario, or if not, have all the Drinking Bros Racing drivers in the championship 5. Now, is that going to be the case? Probably not, with the fact that Stocks Motorsports is still going to have a points gap to the good. At least one of them will by the time we get to the end of this race with the way it's looking right now. But they can make sure that they instill more Drinking Bros Racing drivers into the championship 5. They've already got 2, so they're roughly halfway there. And so they may have something more to say, although we'll see if they can pull anything out of their hat later on in tonight's event. 60 laps completed. Here's a battle for the inside of the top 3. Craig Lounslugger has made a nice run here in this second half of the stint, as he pushes to the inside of the 10, Kyle Benson. And it looks like the pass may be complete. He'll stay to the inside, give a boatload of space there to the 10 of Benson, so they will remain door to door as they aim to catch up to Jaden Porter, who fell out of the top 3 for a moment, but has since picked the pace up in the last part of the stint. Another 28 rookie driver trying to get back up to the front, although he's got a good gap to AJ Green, 1.3 seconds total as they come back to turn 1. And Lance Hill has finally caught up to the tail end of the top 5. We saw how close the top 5 were together here in the opening half of that stint after the caution. But Lance Hill, after spinning on the restart, giving a shove to his teammate Forster once, twice at the very bottom of the racetrack. He is telling him, I need to go, and I need to go now. I've got fresh rubber. And that was a little bit of an antsy call there for Lance Hill in the 38, as he will lose some ground on his teammate. But as everybody runs the inside, that's where you need to be the fastest. And Hill trying to step up the desperation to get back into the podium. AJ Green still leading this race. Now 0.8 of a second, so things have calmed down on the gap for P1. Jaden Porter has been closing in that time by. I think the story is telling on the lap times. Jaden Porter almost a full 10th faster than AJ Green throughout the racetrack. A 31.780 for that 28, a 31.867 for Green. So I think the tires are starting to reach that cliff point for this Marty Robbins throwback of AJ Green and the rookie driver Jaden Porter, and even then he's going to bring in playoff driver Craig Lounslugger with him if he can. That's only going to help the 13 scenario. Remember, at halfway, we will have a top 5 points award. And if you're Craig Lounslugger going into tonight's race, more than about 15 points below that top 5, you're going to need as much as you can take And if what you can take are some bonus points at the halfway mark of tonight's event, you're definitely going to look for it. And we may get closer to the start of green flag pit stops. That, of course, is if we stay green. We are approaching 30 laps on a stint of Goodyear Eagles. AJ Green so far currently holding the lead 0.7 of a second as we continue the final race in the round of 10 of the 4 Wide Racing Cup Series in Season 4. We'll take a short side-by-side break, but you won't miss a thing live from the virtual Charlotte Motor Speedway on MaxSpeedTV.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
We've been waiting for this moment. Generations of innovation all coming together in one place. A pedigree of more than 70 years of NASCAR Cup Series history, from the past to the present, from Petty to Earnhardt to Elliott. Today, there's no more waiting. The future of NASCAR is now. Drive the next-gen cars today on iRacing and step into the next generation of racing.
"73 laps into the finale of the round of 10 in the virtual Charlotte Motor Speedway as we continue our coverage running to the Championship 5 in the 4 Wide Racing Cup Series right here on MaxSpeedTV. AJ Green currently your race leader, but the gap is starting to dwindle. 0.3 of a second between himself and rookie driver Jaden Porter. We're watching some battles around the top 3, top 5. Lance Hill finally getting the best out of Kyle Benson, who falls short to P6 now, with Joe Sanchez making that move as this race continues to progress and as we slowly creep toward a potentiality of green flag pit stops. Just to remind you, as we continue our coverage that on MaxSpeedTV with the 4Wide Racing Cup Series, we are brought to you by 213 Simware. 213 Simware offers fun novelty sim racing apparel with a variety of styles, sizes, and more for you to enjoy and rep sim racing on and off the track. Shop today and learn more at 213simware.com. As they cross the line, we enter 39 laps in our stint of tires and fuel. Of course, Lance Hill, remember him taking a pit stop with Joe Sanchez, Jesse Priest, and a handful of others after a restart caution in the first 40 laps of this race. We'll see if they're able to stretch out the field much longer than the rest of the field, and I can almost argue that they definitely did take a splash. But for everyone else, they are playing the waiting game, just aiming for the moment where they have to come down to pit road, and AJ Green might be the first to do it. We'll see how long he stretches on a tank of fuel, but for everybody else, they are still out on track. Nobody coming down pit road this time by. Field separated practically, and apart from the closing in on the gap for your race lead in the top three, they have remained rather close around the top five on back. We looked at some of the battles there, especially around Eric Schaeferland and Lawson Peel. Although Peel is a lap down, he's still just punching his way through this battle. You watch him right here behind the 99 of Colin Forster. Peel still holding the top 15, and behind Colin Forster, that's not for position. Forster currently holding 8th behind Brandon T. Banks. That is for position up the road, with Benson still trying to play some defense as he falls off on a set of tires. I noticed while we were under break, many drivers are losing the cars at a turn 2, and right there may be an obvious sign of it. Losing the spot here to Brandon Banks. Kyle Benson will go into turn 3. The car is starting to wear on that right front, and it's starting to heat up a lot more than these drivers definitely like. At the top of the field, it isn't necessarily a huge issue. Haven't seen too many hiccups out of these guys, but fourth on back, even Lance Hill and Joe Sanchez, guys that are on 4-lap fresher tires than the guys up in front of them before the restart happened, they are dealing with an understeery car, and that outside wall in turn 2 is starting to look awfully dangerous, as there's some right rear damage on behalf of the 38, and even then some on the 10 machine. They all struck the outside wall in synchronization all at the same time, and fortunately they have scoured away from it for the most part, but you do have to take that into account. These cars are starting to wear out. The right front is starting to scream for grip, and that's where you see that understeer effect come in, and the car will travel up to the outside wall. We haven't seen much of it out of turn 4. It's mostly been a turn 2 issue, so I might have just been wrong on the trouble spot being turn 4 tonight. I think maybe turn 2 and turn 4 are collectively being an issue for the entire field. Hopefully we don't see any more hiccups, but this travel up the track by AJ Green might have looked a little bit dangerous, although he keeps it off the wall. And he is still, though, losing time to the likes of Jaden Porter and Craig Lownslugger, second and third. Again, we are awaiting some green flag pit stops. That is, of course, if a yellow does not come out. And here we do have our first taker down for service. Mark Harris, playoff driver, in for the first time under green. Mark Harris, of course, involved in our first caution involving himself, Lawson Peel in that group as well. Mark Harris had taken the faster pair after that caution with some heavy totaling damage on the right front, and the bumper of the Camaro on the front end being almost completely torn off. So Harris, the first one coming down for service on a pit road, and now it's a game of who pulls the trigger next. We've seen this happen so many times here at these 1.5-mile tracks where everyone will like to overstay their welcome, but it's all about who goes first. It's more like a game of monkey see, monkey do. You see one driver come in, and then you understand, all right, either I have to come in the next lap, or I'm going to be at a severe disadvantage, or maybe I can last longer than just the one lap after a driver comes in for service. Maybe I can go a little bit longer and stay there, but most of the time, it's usually just been a waiting game, seeing who comes first, and as soon as somebody bites the bullet, that's when the whole field starts to come in droves, with Mark Harris going down a pit road that has only brought one other driver with him so far. Actually, never mind, that being 2, Forster and Jesse Priest, 2 playoff drivers coming into tonight's race. And so both of them will take a trip down to the pit road, their pit stall. And we'll see if everybody else will follow suit. I wonder if this top 3 may make a move down pit road, although I think from the likes of Craig Lownslugger making this move underneath the 28 of Jaden Porter, he may not be looking to come down pit road anytime soon. Kyle Benson has joined the fray to come in for service. Same deal for the 42 of Christopher Bishop. So already, guys within the top 5, top 10, already coming in for service at lap 83. Remember, top 5 bonus points are awarded at the halfway mark of tonight's race, and as we cross the line for lap 84, we are basically there. And Craig Lounslugger, I think it wasn't necessarily a move for track position going into pit road. It was most likely a move for the extra bonus point. He knew that he could not get to the race lead, so it was smart to get around Jaden Porter. Knew he had some pace on that 28, so mounted the charge. And as of halfway, once we cross the start-finish line, you'll have some extra bonus points given to AJ Green and Craig Lounslugger. That is going to help the momentum there for the 13 going into the next half of this race. Top 3 still avoiding pit road this time out of turn 4. You may have some takers. Watch the latter half of the top 10. This is Brandon Banks, the Drinkables Racing entry, with his teammate Lawson Peel behind him, and the 55 stuck in that sandwich between the 88 and the 12. But they also do not elect to come down pit road, so only a handful of takers, most of them being playoff runners. Colin Forster came out on the racetrack. He is 1 lap down in 11th. But again, the whole field still needing to cycle out on the run for green flag pit stops, and here they come. Top 2 in, 48-13. Jaden Porter will stay out to lead some laps here from Charlotte, but here come your leaders in for the first time under green flag circumstances. First time we see AJ Green on pit road since one of the most recent cautions early on in tonight's race. There's a look at the 13, locking over the brakes, just making sure he does not overshoot the pit stall. We've seen that happen a lot with these next-gen cars. The brakes and the temperature have been an issue in getting them dialed in and locking up the car enough to make that pit road speed limit, first of all, but then to make that stop onto your pit stall. It's not a problem on the entry to the pit lane for Jaden Porter, your race leader, who now comes in. He will hand the lead over to Brandon Banks, who will stay out an extra lap. Lance Hill will join this 28 car this time through. So again, 2 more drivers in for service. AJ Green now coming out. And all the guys who are staying out, they're just hoping that maybe a yellow comes out to their favor and keep a majority of the field 1 lap down, or just come down pit road, stay out as long as they could, and then get a fresh set of Goodyear Eagles. Here comes Joe Sanchez riding on board with the 55. He is second before this stop. Wiggles the Chevrolet a little bit, chucks it in a second gear, and Joe Sanchez on a pit road. The Paul setup shop in for service. Here's Jaden Porter coming out of pit road, trying to be as careful as possible. And the bumps there on the apron of 1 and 2, not necessarily the smoothest bumps to go over. And I've driven the next-gen car here at Charlotte. It does get very treacherous, and that car steps out a lot. Here's Michael Dubraw, who is 4th right now, so he comes in just behind that 55. And now here comes your leader, Brandon Banks, in for service. Lawson Peel, who's 1 lap down, trying to unlap himself. And so this will hand the lead to Eric Schaefer, or rather Kevin D'Elia. Schaefer coming down to pit road. I believe D'Elia may take a step down this time by to follow. Right on board with the 53. We'll see if he does. Answer is no, so D'Elia will stay out an extra time. But your leader out of green flag pit stops will not be AJ Green for now. It'll be his teammate, Colin Forster, who makes the undercut strategy work. And Colin Forster will be to the race lead at lap 89. Mark Harris is shuffled out in 3rd, so a nice undercut maneuver by both Forster and Harris, but Colin for Harris is pitted 2 laps earlier than Colin Forster did, so he's at a larger tire discrepancy. Here's on board with the 5 is AJ Green. It's a huge run in 3 and 4. Of course, the grip mattering big time, and we saw it happen so many times around the round of 15, the round of 10, the very abrasive surfaces of the likes of Rockingham, Nashville Superspeedway, Darlington, where you get fresh rubber, and this is what happens. If you've got the clean tires, your car is going to be flying across the racetrack, and you're going to make the other cars that are on older tires look like they're standing still. AJ Green officially moves to net P2, and again, still waiting the call by Kevin D'Elia to come down pit road. It looks like it will not happen again, so D'Elia is going to stay out for as long as possible. He's approaching lap 22 on his stint, which is remarkably low on a number. Most of the field were approaching lap 40, 41, and even 45 in some extreme cases, but D'Elia will try to stay out as long as possible. He's still got a hefty amount of laps to go before he's going to have to worry about the fuel tank running out. But the tires are definitely going to be the difference here on the battle for first, as Colin Forster has closed in, his teammate AJ Green to follow, and he may even close in on the 99. And out of turn 4, clear side of the rear bumper of the 53 to the outside. Colin Forster goes, and at turn 1, we may have a new race leader in the Martini Racing 99. So Forster makes the move. D'Elia obviously cannot form up a response on the old tires. Here comes AJ Green to the inside. That is officially for second. Mark Harris may take the spot over for third. And this undercut strategy working to the favor of the 99 machine so far as of lap 92. And you got to think that call may be a little bit risky if you're that 99 who only has a 1-point difference between himself and Lance Hill for that final spot into the championship 5. Green a little more comfortable, but by a little more comfortable, I mean only 2 points more, 3 points above that top 5. But it is working for Forster to at least stay in the top 3. AJ Green with some fresher rubber will come out of turn 4 and may have a look to the inside or outside on his teammate, but will instead duck behind the 99 and will stay another extra lap in P2. But AJ Green is there. Mark Harris has officially taken over third. Next car on the chopping block for D'Elia is Craig Launslugger, who I believe is now starting to make the move underneath. But here's a look. Down low, race lead. AJ Green back to P1 in turn 3. Can confirm Launslugger and Benson did make their way by that 53 of D'Elia and may even get to Mark Harris. So some more points lost here for your Harris. Gained on the short term. Might lose some in this long run. Although the distance, I think, is very large to help Harris slow the bleeding if he can. Remember, longer into the run, we may see the tires even out depending on how hard these guys push. And we've seen the right front wear out significantly over the green flag runs, so could keep that in mind as well if you're Mark Harris. You may be losing spots right now, but if you can stay alive for the moment, those guys could use their stuff up more than you do. And if you save a little bit, be a little more conservative and consistent in your approach here, if we stay green for the next half of the race, and you may have the opportunity to get back at them. And we saw that happen with Jaden Porter in the 28, who's currently riding in 6th. Craig Launslugger in the 13, who's now occupied 3rd. You can hang back for a little bit, let the guys take over the first handful of spots, aggressive early, but as soon as they start to wear out, your car will start to come alive. And for the 5 of Harris, you may have to start thinking about that, being on the older set of tires this time through. Jaden Porter closing in on the gap, so we may see a change of hands for the inside of the top 5. It'll chuck Mark Harris to P6, and then he'll have to worry about Kevin D'Elia in the 53, who is still staying out, so I don't think that's a problem whatsoever. It'll be Jesse Prees, who's the next one on block, who has taken a trip down to pit road. Basically, everybody has gone down for service, apart from that 53. Now about 25, or rather 29 laps into a stint, so maybe 10 or so laps roughly before that 53 has to make a decision to come down to pit road. I figure the track position loss may be a little too hefty for his liking as of lap 98 of 167. So with the tire gain for AJ Green, he has opened things up to a 2.3 second gap, now 2.5 seconds almost to Colin Forster, and AJ Green just continuing a dominant race here tonight from the virtual Charlotte Motor Speedway. And again, looking back at Darlington, just what could have been if you're this 48, even what could have been if you're the 99 of Colin Forster. Either one of them could have been at the front for the race win and could have locked themselves in the championship 5. But for Green, tried to be aggressive on the restart laps, and then got into Jaden Porter as Porter hit the outside wall in front of him out of turn 2, then slammed the inside wall. That basically did it for AJ Green's chances of winning that race. He led 121 laps out of that event. Colin Forster, who was out front and had the lead up until the exit of turn 4 on the white flag, where Eric Schaefer got around them for the race win. It was just an unfortunate scenario for both of those guys. And as you watch the battle for second heat up, Craig Launslugger, fresher tires this time through. We'll tuck the Chevy nose to the inside of Forster for a moment. I think Forster notices Launslugger is going to want that position, and he's not going to give him any resistance. Inside, Craig Launslugger goes. That's for second. And this run being our longest here tonight from Charlotte. Here's a look at around the latter half of the top 10. Jesse Prees, Brandon Banks, Joe Sanchez in the 55, Lance Hill, who has reverted back to 10th. One of the last guys to take a trip onto pit road and has not used much of his tires since, at least to his advantage for the most part. And he has stayed where he's at. And so everybody's single file for the most part. There's a change of position as Cody Ivy hangs to the outside. I believe he's a lapped car, so he's just going to let these guys through without any problems as Sanchez will work to the bottom. Jesse Priest, that is a pivotal pass here. Jesse Priest, of course, below that cut line by 8 points going into tonight's race. And so that also matters here. Sanchez not a playoff driver, although he did have the win at the virtual New Hampshire Motor Speedway early on in the campaign. We'll see exactly what Jesse Priest can do. Now here's a change of position for third. Jaden Porter getting over the 99 of Forster. So Jaden Porter, the rookie driver, again making a statement here from Charlotte as we come in on the final 64 laps from Concord, North Carolina. And it is all AJ Green at the helm of the ship at the front of the field. We, of course, we'll have one more extra pit stop before this race is over. That is, of course, if we stay green. Tire sets will matter if we end up in a late race restart situation or if we end up going to our 3 extinguishable green-white checkered attempts here tonight. However, if it stays green, these guys should be good to the end on just one more stop. That stop is going to mean a lot. We'll see if anybody extends their hand out earlier or later than expected or later than that last recent stop. Of course, just depending on their scenario in the playoffs. You think about Craig Lautenschlager, the gap that he had to the negative going into tonight's race. Those extra bonus points at halfway certainly did help in P2. Needs a lot more. Cody Kinsey, he's still in that must-win situation, and he hasn't really showed out tonight. Maybe things can change later on, but for right now, Kinsey looking like he will be eliminated from Championship 5 contention. AJ Green looking to lock himself into the Championship 5 and just put himself in a position to win his second straight 4-Wide Racing Cup Series championship. Colin Forster looking to be one of the last Stonks Motorsports drivers in on points. I believe as it stands with Lance Hill in 8th, Hill will still be below that top 5. Even with Lawson Peel being a lap down in 15th just because he held the 17-point gap going into tonight's race. And Lance Hill, I don't believe he had top 5 placement by the time we got to halfway. Not entirely sure. Points awfully getting tight again. It was 1 point going into the round of 10 at Darlington. It was 1 point coming out of Talladega. And it may just be that 1 point that makes the difference between a Championship 5 appearance and just watching those guys run for the title while you just run your own race, or even worse, maybe stay home. As a look back at AJ Green, still leading this race, and the gap has closed down a little bit. About 2.2 seconds, so Craig Lautenschlager is starting to catch up to Green. Not sure if this is Green just starting to be a little more conservative now that he has a buffer between himself and second, or maybe it's just a long run pace starting to dwindle out of the 48. We saw that happen at the tail end of the run before that first round of green flag pit stops. AJ Green has started to struggle a little bit, specifically on that right front. Craig Lautenschlager and Jaden Porter looked to have the pace above. They just did not have enough time to get around that AJ Green machine. I think Dirty Air also made it worse for that 13 and the 28-2 to attempt a pass. But we'll see if that gap continues to crumble down. It looks like it has. And again, almost a full 1/10 of a second difference that last time by. Green at 31.9 as he crosses the start-finish line. It's a 31.873 on behalf of Craig Lautenschlager, a 31.850 for Jaden Porter, who holds through in third. Even Colin Forster, he's a little bit slower, 32.1. The only other driver around that mark, or even faster, is the 31.578, set by the 88 of Brandon T. Banks. Again, he was one of the later drivers to come down on pit road. He is only 20 laps in his stint, a rough about 3-lap difference to the driver up in front leading the race. For the moment, everybody's single file. We may have a battle here soon enough for second if Jaden Porter can catch up to the likes of the 13 of Lautenschlager. We've seen them go at it for position a little bit here tonight. They've been some of the fastest drivers in the long run, specifically even better than AJ Green at some points throughout the run. And Jaden Porter trying to continue what's been a fantastic rookie season to start. You're right on board with the 28 coming out of turn 4. And the 28 getting his first win of the year at the virtual Nashville Super Speedway, and even had some standout performances. So one of them against this 13 at Watkins Glen. If you can remember their battle after the connection issues halfway through the race, they were around the top 3. Lounsluger had the spot, but Jaden Porter was giving him a run for his money, and he may do so again. And Porter just trying to continue a momentous run to the championship race, and may even do what Lawson Peel did back in season 3, run a couple of races, be late on the entry for playoffs or full-time eligibility, but run for wins and be straight out of the gate with unbelievable speed. And Porter doing just that time a little bit faster, roughly 0.5 of a second faster than Lounsluger in second, so we may have a run for second in just a couple of moments. Colin Forrester, he is 4 seconds, almost 4.5 seconds between himself and Jaden Porter in 4th. How about a battle for top 5? Brandon Banks inside Kyle Benson in turn 3. And it will not be a response out of the 10, at least for now, in a turn 4. Might be able to run this time by to the front straightaway. And so this battle may not be over yet. But Brandon Banks holding on the Reese's all-black Chevy Camaro. Of course, that mindset for Texas Motor Speedway next week, along with his teammate, Eric Schaefer. Might not like the little tap that he gave him to bring out our first caution, or to almost bring out our first caution, rather. It did not cause a caution, but it could have definitely done so. But a nice recovery here by Brandon Banks as he enters the top 5 for the first time practically since that incident out of turn 2. So coming into the final 53 laps here from the virtual Charlotte Motor Speedway, this race has gone green since our last yellow involving Lance Hill, Jesse Preece, the 55 of Joe Sanchez. And I talked with Tyler Murray, league owner, who unfortunately is not here in the running tonight, but of course is watching from home or wherever he may be, the league owner for the 4 Wide Racing Cup Series. And he told me that last night, the 4 Wide Racing ARCA Series race, that event went all the way green apart from one caution between himself, and I believe it was Eric Schaefer that had gotten into him. But other than that, told me that the race went all the way to the finish green, and it's only continued a trend that has lasted since Talladega last week. And frankly, I remember talking with Francisco up in the booth, we were not expecting a race like that for the event to go so long under green, and to only have that one caution, to have pitch strategy in the mix, and to have the drama build up out of that, and to have the field come back in together and not wreck until the final lap of the race. It was just unbelievable to watch how far they were able to stretch on green, and just how good these drivers are at keeping things clean on track. Now we are experiencing a mirror image performance tonight from Charlotte and the Cup Series side. Of course, the final 5 was decided last night for the 4 Wide Racing ARCA Series. We covered their last season on the K1 Racing Network, but unfortunately could not strike a deal to cover their season this time around. Lawson Peel, remember, he is in contention to make the Championship 5 in the Cup Series. He is in the Championship 5 for the ARCA Series. AJ Green is in there as well as he leads this race, trying to lock himself into the championship finale at Texas 1 week from tonight. Kyle Benson, 9 playoff contention. He was eliminated early on in one of the earlier rounds in the Cup Series, but he made it all the way to the ARCA finale. Jesse Preece in the 00 is in there as well, and Colin Forrester in the 99, the last one into the Championship 5 for the 4 Wide Racing ARCA Series finale. That race happening next Tuesday. And so we might see some of the familiar faces having a dual stint Tuesday and Wednesday for a 4 Wide Racing Championship, maybe get 2 in a row. We could have a driver do that. We had 2 different champions last season. It was Tony Kibbett grabbing the championship on the ARCA side, and it was AJ Green on the Cup side. And we have some repeating offenders, if we could call it that, as Craig Lounsluger, right on board with him. He got way tight at a turn 4. He was going against Kevin D'Elia, who made a stop on pit road. D'Elia currently 2 laps down, and that brings in Jaden Porter on a fight reignited for P2. Right on board with Porter, a solid exit out of the second corner, and they are indeed catching up to your leader. Look at D'Elia getting by the bright pink and yellow Chevy Camaro. They are 1.1 seconds and closing to the 48 of AJ Green. Porter not able to build a good enough run to get around that 13, so he will hold back But things are starting to crunch in, closing in on our final potential pit stop of the race. Here's a look at Colin Forster where he stands, P5 on the racetrack behind Brandon Banks. We saw that pass from the 88 to the 10 of Kyle Benson happen a couple laps back. Forster had made the pass on Benson this time through, so he's trying to get back in the game. Here's Joe Sanchez currently running 7th. Lance Hill has not moved from where he was after the green flag pit stops. He is still P8. Eric Schaefer, who's locked into the championship race next week. He is 9th. Jesse Priest, his teammate for Drinkin' Bros Racing, now coming out of turn 4. He may be under fire from Mark Harris, but I think Priest does have fresher tires than this 5 car, so I think it will not help to the positive of the 5 as Priest will run a little higher on the racetrack, the 24 degrees of banking. There are some lines you can choose option-wise. Here from Charlotte, you won't really see that at Texas next week. But still, the best line seems to be the one all the way to the inside and tucked against that blue and white painted line on the inside of the racetrack. And so some guys maybe experimenting just a little bit. But for the moment, the inside seems to be the best. And again, we'll take a look back to the fight for second. Craig Launslager still under pressure from the 28 of Jaden Porter. As we close in on the final 45 laps in this 167-lap event from the virtual Charlotte Motor Speedway. Of course, so happy that you're joining us here on MaxSpeedTV. Kenneth Bueno up in the broadcast booth. Unfortunately, we do not have Francisco Bacallao for tonight's event, but we may be, I think we will have him for Texas Motor Speedway in the Championship 5 finale 1 week from tonight, so you won't want to miss that. That'll be 9:10 p.m. Eastern. Of course, 1 week from tonight, right here on MaxSpeedTV, as we'll have our Championship 5 decided, and we'll have them run wild for the Season 5, or the Season 4 Championship, rather, going into Season 5. So we'll see how that all ends up. But for the moment, it continues to be an AJ Green-led show. Gap is still around 1.1 seconds, so Launslager and Porter, they're still gaining time on the race leader. But I think now they're starting to even out just a little bit more. We saw that at the tail end of the first run where they had a lot of good speed to build up on this 48, and they caught the gap. But maybe they pushed themselves a little bit far past their point, and that cliff starts to reach them a little bit sooner than they expected. And then right before the green flag pit stops, none of them were able to make a pass on this 48, who continues to be dominant. That's Christopher Bishop, that bright blue and gray Chevy Camaro. He comes out of pit road. He is currently 2 laps down on the racetrack. Also to note, there are currently 11 cars on the lead lap. Cody Kinsey, the last one, away from the problem there. Remember, Kinsey, 51 points below that cut line going into tonight's race from Talladega. He did not show up at the Super Speedway in Alabama, so he's in a must-win scenario, but it is not looking his way in the final leg of tonight's Charlotte event. And we are officially closing in, 40 laps in. So green flag pit stops may be the topic of conversation once again. We saw Colin Forster and Mark Harris were among the first 2 to come in. Harris was the first out of the group. We'll see if he does it all over again. But it will not be the 5. Instead, 38 and the 10. Lance Hill and Kyle Benson in for their final stops here tonight from Charlotte. And it looks like there's totaling damage on the 38 of Lance Hill, and he almost about missed his pit stall. I think that may warrant a fast pair. Indeed, he did miss his pit stall. The 38 of Lance Hill, more playoff implications. The jacks finally go up. The faster pair instilled, but the 38 is going to lose so much time. And there had to have been a strike at the outside wall for Hill before this pit stop, and it probably forced his hand. We'll take a look and see how it all started, and indeed it was a hit to the outside wall. Take a look with the 38 coming out of turn 4. Looked to be completely fine. No problems. He was running P8 before his stop on a pit road. And I think it was the 10 of Benson who forced his hand. Indeed it did. And the 38 tried to get out of harm's way, but instead found himself in the trouble. He tried to get out of it and avoid the 10, who was limping in the middle of the racetrack. I'm not sure how a caution was not waved at all but we will stay green. And the complications for the 38 continue. An unbelievable set of circumstances. More takers on a pit road. Colin Forrester in that group. Brandon Banks in there as well. Banks just missed his stall. We'll see if Forrester has the same problem. He does not. Eric Schaefer coming in as well. All three of them Chevy Camaros. There's a second place car. Craig Lounslager, who has closed in now 0.6 of a second to your leader. We'll see when they end up coming in for service. And that leaves us with just 5 cars on the lead lap. There's Michael Newbraw at the forefront of the screen. Joe Sanchez in the middle. Cody Ivey in the background there in the 81. So they're all coming in. There's Cody Kinsey, I think the last one on the lead lap to come in this time through. And now here comes your leader, AJ Green, followed by the top 3. Lounslager, Porter closing in on the gap as they come in for the final pit stop of tonight's 167 lapper. So they all come in. This indeed will be the final pit stop of tonight's race, barring any late race restarts. Cody Ivey and Cody Kinsey, both of them coming out of their pit stalls. No problems for your top 3, so they should cycle out to 1, 2, 3 on the racetrack. Lawson Peel has unlapped himself, but remember, he is still due a pit stop as he comes across the start-finish line. This will take him the race lead for a moment here, but he will be sworn by the fresh tire combo of Peel, Green, and Lounslager, or rather Green, Lounslager, and Porter. Remarkably so, AJ Green, not a huge gap to Lounslager, 0.3 of a second, and even then some, almost half a second to Jaden Porter back in 3rd. So the battle for the lead in the final 36 laps of this race from Charlotte, it is not over yet. AJ Green, an overdrive coming out of turn 4, and now here comes Lounslager with a potential charge back to turn 1. Remember, both of these guys running for the playoffs this year. Green looking to keep his points gap of 3 points alive. Lounslager trying to go over the hump and lock himself into Championship 5 contention. And he would stay behind Green. That time the gap grew. So Green will try to settle into his rhythm. But this race not over yet into the final 35. You have to imagine here if the motivation changes on behalf of the 30 or the 13 and the 28, whether they want to push it more on this stint or whether they want to do what they've been doing all race long. Wait until the moment strikes and then start to pick up the time on your race leader, who seems to push more around lap 35, lap 40 in the stint. But we are less than 35 laps left in this race. So the time may be of essence if you're Lounslager and Porter. And what will Porter do in this situation? Remember, we've talked about non-playoff drivers being spoilers. Talladega was one of them. Kyle Benson, Austin Reedy being some of the best throughout the field. And having a say in the championship battle, does Porter have anything to splice up the fight between the 13 and the 48 as you ride on board with Porter coming out of turn 4? And Porter has shown speed all race long, but he has never shown it above your top 3. Works his car through 1 and 2, and this time a nice approach out of the corner. We'll see if he ducks down lower, if Lounslager shuts the door and gives the block. That time Porter will not look for the move in a turn 3. Instead, back out, wait for the moment to strike again. They're battling for 5th. This is Brandon Banks underneath Mark Harris in the 5 car. Remember, Harris, of course, a hefty margin below that cut line going into tonight's race. And Brandon Banks officially locked in. There are some connection issues there, but no worries as the 5 will stay behind that 88. Colin Forrester has moved himself up into 4th. But we're not entirely sure whether that's going to be good enough to stay in the Championship 5 hunt. If AJ Green goes ahead and wins this race, of course, if Green gets to the checkered flag, it will be his 3rd win of the year. His 1st in the playoffs, and the most important one to bring him to Texas. If Craig Lounslager wins, it will be a huge wrench into what's been a Stocks Motorsports pursuit to bring some drivers into the Championship 5 for Lawson Peel. I think he's stuck in that gray area, but Pio has been on the back foot all race long, and he is still one lap down, one spot better than he was before in P14. But things have not looked good for the Cobalt Chevrolet ever since his incident. And so all eyes on the 48 of AJ Green. No response out of Lounslugger nor Jaden Porter. A rough exit there out of turn 2 for the 13. It looks like Porter would not extend the hand out again. And so he's determined to stay with that 13 and not directly affect the championship battle. There are some lap traffic cars up ahead the road. That's Cody Ivy and Cody Kinsey. This is going to be a dagger for Kinsey if he ends up one lap down. One of the last ones to take a trip on for pit road service. Cody Ivy currently 3 laps down in 17th. So he'll let the 48 by, although it was a little sketchy coming out of turn 2. The 24 degrees of banking. Back straightaway, Cody Ivy will secede that position. And Jaden Porter now makes a move inside for second. So the 13 in trouble, and the 48 loses ground. He's got damage, I believe, on his Chevy Camaro. And here comes Porter for the race lead. It was troubles with Cody Ivy, the lap car, as Craig Lounslugger forces his way by. He's got some damage on the rear end, I believe, just a little bit. But Green falls to third, and now here he goes with the response inside for P2. And what a change of hands this was, as Cody Ivy continues to remain stout in this run for the top 3. Porter has checked out to half a second into the final 37 laps. Into the final 27 now from Charlotte Motor Speedway. We'll see what happened with Green around Cody Ivy in the 81. And he about got turned by the lap car. Watch this, turn 3. AJ Green tries to clear. And that almost could have brought out a caution. Green going sideways and a miraculous save. But then there came the 28 and the 13. And Green could do nothing but brace for impact. He's worked his way back to second. But the gap still remains between himself and rookie driver Jaden Porter, looking for his second win in the 2022 season. As an unbelievable development with one of your most dominant drivers tonight into the final leg of the race. Let's look at Joe Sanchez, Eric Schaefer. That is for 7th. Here's the distance to your top 3 who have broken away. Colin Forster roughly 3.5 seconds away from your leader and growing. His car not faring much better as he may be under fire from Lawson Pio and Brandon Banks. Pio not for position, but Banks, it is for position on the racetrack. That is for 4th. But this is the focus. Into the final 20 laps. Porter holding on to a lead that is starting to crumble. AJ Green, you're right on board with the rear end of the 28, trying to catch up. Arguably the fastest car all evening long, with an unforced error that wasn't even his own. And now here he comes, Lounslugger still tailing behind and towing. Remember, this battle for the championship important. Green washes up the track at a turn 4, and here comes Lounslugger with a move for second. This is going to stall AJ Green's run for first. And going to do the same for the 13. They're going to remain side by side in 1 and 2. The banking might help the 48, but it'll keep them even door to door for P2 back to turn 3. Lounslugger finally makes the pass clear. So Green, another obstacle into the final 22 laps. From Charlotte, another lap car in front. That is the 93, Cody Kinsey. But for the playoffs, a huge change for track position. And you think about just how far Craig Lounslugger has come since his last win at Iowa, as AJ Green dramatically slows down in the middle of 3 and 4. But the 13 has had a rather up and down past couple of seasons. You think back to Season 2. The couple of wins he got there, did not get a win in Season 3, and has not won since. In Season 4, and what a win could do is, of course, lock him into the Championship 5. But it would give him a surge of momentum that he hasn't seen in a very, very long time. We talked about his performances at these abrasive tracks. Remember, Darlington, one of his better venues in the series calendar. How good he was in the round of 15. At Rockingham and Nashville Superspeedway. 2 tracks that were making their debut in the 4 Wide Racing Cup Series playoffs this year. And now here, more than 10 points out from the cut line going into tonight's race to the green flag, and with an opportunity to take his first win of the season, and one that'll etch his name alongside Eric Schaefer and Brandon Banks as that time by a 31.375 for your second place car, a 31.457 with lap traffic approaching. This race is not over yet with 19 laps to go. Here's a ride on board from Lauenslager. Kinsey running the higher line in 3 and 4. We'll see how long it takes before Porter and company get to them. AJ Green has fallen now a full second short of the 13. So those points lost may be the difference of making the Championship 5 and watching it from the sidelines. As Lauenslager continues to build the pressure on the rear end of the 28. Coming to 17 laps to go from Charlotte. Here's a potential fight through the top 5. This is Colin Forster. Brandon Banks going at it for 4th. And we talked about the lost ground that Colin Forster had. Again, he was one of the earlier takers on the first round of green flag pit stops and was kind of in the mediary position there on the second round of pit stops. But Brandon Banks, of course, still fresher tires, and Banks, one of the faster cars here tonight, hasn't really done much to step into the top 3, but Banks has been a force to be reckoned with. This is definitely a momentous run after the win at Talladega. And so we may see a pass develop here in the next couple laps or so. Right now, it's remained single file between the two, and they are still losing ground to your top 3, who have since put themselves in a different category. And some lost time this time through for Lauenslager, a 0.2 of a second difference on the last lap. 31.6 for Jaden Porter, 31.8 on behalf of the 13. It may bring himself and AJ Green a little bit closer that time by, but the tires may have reached the cliff. And I talked about it with AJ Green. How willing were these two guys to push on the set of tires for the final stretch of the race, knowing that there was still a while left, knowing that there was still roughly 35 or so laps before the checkered flag? How far would they push these cars before the cliff arrives and before the right front starts to scream? And it looks like the cliff may have arrived for the 13 of Craig Lauenslager. He is still maintaining 0.3 of a second, but the speed is starting to fall off just a little bit, and the consistency starting to rise out of the 28. They have still yet to catch up to Cody Kinsey in the 93, who's still holding on for dear life for the lead lap in 12th. But into the final 15 laps, a better lap this time through for Lauenslager, and Porter trying to hold on for his second win of Season 4. There's Brandon Banks, an official completed pass on the 99 of Forster. They're going to work around the lap car of Cody Ivey. That's how far they are behind your top 3. We saw the drama happen a while back, and as Cody Ivey smacks the outside wall, he's going to drift down the racetrack and almost gave Brandon Banks a big concern coming out of the 4th corner. But we'll clear out of harm's way. The 88 and the 99 still in that tussle for P4 on the racetrack, and they've got Joe Sanchez behind them, but he's roughly 6 seconds behind this group. There he is crossing the start-finish line for 13 laps to go. And so we'll keep an eye on that, see if any points change throughout there. But this is the biggest storyline, no doubt about it, as they continue to close in on Cody Kinsey and even more lap traffic. Poor turn 4 exit by the 28. Here comes the 13 with a charge to turn 1. Will not do anything into the first corner, knowing the 93 is there. But Lauenslager trying to make a statement in the final 12.5 laps of the race. We talked about Lounslugger falling off just a bit. Dirty air may be a factor in that as well. The lap traffic may push Porter into a scenario that he does not want to be in. Another poor exit. This time, he'll work to the inside and will officially put Kinsey 1 lap down. He'll take the worst line arc going into turn 1. And for now, Lounslugger is maintaining, but he will exit alongside that 93 as Porter backs out. And Lounslugger stays to the rear end, still side by side, back to turn 3. And Porter trying to hang on. He will come out of turn 4 with 10 laps to go from Concord, North Carolina. And that was a big moment out of turn 4. Kinsey still outside of Lounslugger, coming out of the final corner. I think now Lounslugger might be able to clear, but Cody Kinsey is going to retaliate. Outside move will keep him side by side, and that may be the final nail in the coffin to assist Jaden Porter to get his second win. Lounslugger another chance here in a turn 3, and will not get the best of it. Kinsey going to stay, finally clears out of turn 4. And that might have done it if Porter does not make any mistakes from here on out. 9 laps to go from Charlotte. And that time you could tell the difference between having a lap car there and being completely all by yourself. 32-2 for the 13, a 32 flat for your race leader. As Lounslugger will try once again to build a run. It's been frustrating for that 13. I can only imagine it's only getting worse. The antsiness is starting to pick up. You know your season's on the line for a championship. You've got a non-playoff driver in Jaden Porter being the spoiler of it all, trying to run away as AJ Green has caught up with Brandon T. Banks in the 88, I believe. Actually, no, that is Lawson Peel. So Brandon Banks still a couple seconds out. Almost confused the two cars there for a moment. But AJ Green looks to be out of this completely for his 3rd race win of the year. And we'll see if the points gap is enough to keep him above the cut line for the championship 5. That time by another solid lap at a Lounslugger. He is not done yet with 7 laps to go. And this may be the pull of the trigger. A solid run on the back straightaway. Jaden Porter gives the block. That's lap car Christopher Bishop on the outside. They'll get by the 42 without any problems, so not a Cody Kinsey scenario here for the 13. Still on the rear bumper. 6 laps to go. And we haven't talked about much of these two guys. In that first half of the race, didn't really show out all too much. But those long runs played to their favor. 2 of the fastest when it came down to worn tires on the racetrack. And it's a duel between a non-playoff driver, a rookie, and one trying to keep his championship hopes alive. This may be the attempted pass. Not going to do it. Coming to the quad oval back to turn 1 with 5 to go. Porter doing all he can to keep Lounslugger at bay, but Lounslugger refuses to accept his fate. It'll be 4 laps to go when we cross the start-finish line. And can Lounslugger do anything to force Porter into a mistake? That time by another solid exit out of turn 4, and a look to the inside. Slight contact between the two. Lounslugger inside for the race lead with 4 to go. This may be the move of the race to get Lounslugger to the championship 5. Still down there out of turn 2. Porter trying to answer on the high side of the 24 degrees of banking. A huge send by Lounslugger keeps him even with Porter. 3 laps to go this time, and they are still even for the lead. AJ Green too far back to have a say in this run for the win. Jaden Porter trying to cement himself as the new 4-wide star. Lounslugger trying to get back in it as a seasoned veteran, as they are still side by side. And Lounslugger again will make a charge. That time washes up high. Porter staying up strong. And as they come out of turn 4, there will be 3 miles left from Charlotte, North Carolina. Porter edges ahead at the line to 2 laps to go. And what factor could Cody Kinsey have in all this if he has the speed? They're still door-to-door. They're still losing time. And could the 93 have an effect in it? Remember, he is a Drinking Bros Racing driver. As Lounslugger will stay down low. And they will approach the final lap from the virtual Charlotte Motor Speedway in the penultimate race of Season 4 in the 4-Wide Racing Cup Series. White flag in the air from Charlotte. A contentious battle in the last half of the race. Still even between the 13 and the 28. That time by a better run and assistance. Cody Kinsey giving the push to Jaden Porter. And as they come through 3 and 4, Lounslugger gives a shove. Pushes Porter up the track. Lounslugger moves down low. Cody Kinsey did it as well. Door to door, through the grass, to the line. Lounslugger wins from Charlotte and goes to the Championship 5. Unbelievable. Three different winners in the round of 10, all locking into the Championship 5. And it's Lounslugger to the win. His car damaged and pretty much beached on the grass in turn 1. Jaden Porter short by 7/1000ths of a second. AJ Green capitalizes the 3rd place finish. We'll see if that's good enough to keep himself into the run for the title. But Craig Lounslugger wins in photo finish fashion from Charlotte. Lounslugger still trying to get his car rolling. I think he'll find somebody to push him sooner than later. There's smoke billowing out of the engine, so I don't think he'll be rolling anytime soon. But what a finish. And they pushed each other to the quad oval grass to get there. There's Cody Ivey, I think, trying to give some support. There's AJ Green slamming in. But it is Craig Lounslugger, his first win of the year. He becomes the 13th different winner. And Lounslugger did all that he could. And it ends up in a race victory. We'll try to take a look at that final lap. And I questioned over and over in my head, before even saying it, that Cody Kinsey might have an effect into the battle. They were side by side for approximately 5 or so laps. These are the final 2 here from Charlotte. There's Cody Kinsey in that bright purple 93. Remember, he came into tonight needing a race win, must-win scenario for him. And obviously, it was not going to happen with the way his situation was looking out. And this was coming to the white flag. And you watch Kinsey there. That 3rd car using the outside. And remember, Drinking Bros Racing teammate. He wants to ensure that Drinking Bros Racing stays in the hunt, along with the 2 locked-in drivers. And this was the move that could have cemented the win for rookie Jaden Porter. But Lounslugger goes for the send, and somehow it pays off. Dove deep into turn 3. And right there, tucked up against the outside wall, chasing to the quad oval grass. And somehow Craig Lounslugger wins by 7/1000ths of a second. I'm not sure whether that's the closest finish in 4-Wide Racing Cup Series history, as they flagged it underneath the restart zone of the Toyota sign in the grass. That Roval chicane on the front straightaway. And this is the difference for Craig Lounslugger to get his first win of the year and to go for a championship next week at Texas. Obviously, that's the reason he was beached. The tolling destroyed on both wheels on the right side of the car. We'll see if there are any calls out of race control based on the finish. But for right now, unofficial. And Craig Lounslugger is categorized as the race winner from the virtual Charlotte Motor Speedway. We'll take a look at your full field results and see exactly how everybody finished unofficially after 167 laps. And we only had a couple of cautions to start the race, but frankly, it went green all the way to the end. Craig Lownslugger by 7 1/1000ths of a second to victory lane. Jaden Porter just short of the race win. Got to give credit to the rookie in the 28. Did all that he could and basically had the win locked in before Lownslugger gave him the bump in the final corner. AJ Green, the most dominant driver all night long. It does not result in a reflective finishing order, although this could be a finish good enough to keep him in the championship 5 for next week. Colin Forster finishes 4th. Their teammate Lance Hill closes out the top 5. This win, though, by Lownslugger basically shuffles the whole playoff field into a very big mess, frankly. It'll be Mark Harrison, P6, Cody Kinsey in 7th, Christopher Bishop at 8th, Lawson Peel in 9th, Joe Sanchez rounding out the top 10. Only 6 cars on the lead lap for the last part of this race, and you'll look at the rest of the field as it stands. To 17th, Michael Newbraw is 11th, Kyle Benson in 12th. He fell back significantly at the end of the race. Brandon Banks is 13th, so problems for both of them at the end of this one. Eric Schaefer, 14th. Cody Ivey rounding out your top 15, 4 laps down. Kevin D'Elia, 16 laps down. And the 0-0 of Jesse Prees, not the night he wanted whatsoever. That surely will eliminate him from Championship 5 eligibility. But we will try to sort ourselves through after an unbelievable handful of laps, and they were side by side for as long as you can count laps. And it's Craig Lownslugger to victory lane. We'll try to see if there are any official words from race control right now. There are none. But we will try to talk with all of the drivers who finished in the top 3. And it starts with your unofficial race winner from Charlotte Motor Speedway, the 13 of Craig Lownslugger. Craig, I'm not sure if even you have words to describe this finish, but you take the win in unbelievable fashion, stealing it from Jaden Porter, and unofficially you win tonight, locking yourself into the Championship 5. How do you feel, first of all?
Pretty darn relieved. It was really looking bad for me going into this race. I mean, I haven't won all season, need to win. So, I mean, odds are I wasn't going to be able to do it. But this is probably my best track outside of maybe Darlington and Nashville. And I just managed to execute. And I came in with a mindset that I was going to have to do literally anything possible to win. And I went out and ran a Dale Earnhardt scheme because that's the way he raced. I needed to channel a little bit of that energy that I often lack in other races.
You know, I had that right. I said it early in the broadcast. The switch to the paint scheme and the manufacturer had to have been on purpose. There was no way that this was just a coincidental switch trying to get that intimidator energy in you, and you had that, especially in the last leg of the race. Give us the perspective there in that final half. You come off of the last phase of green flag pit stops. You have AJ Green, Jaden Porter in front of you, and knowing for a good amount of the last part of the race, you guys were the fastest when you guys got into that rhythm, especially as the tires were off, better than AJ Green at some point. So give us that perspective of catching up to AJ Green, getting by him with some lap traffic trouble, and then the side-by-side battle for multiple laps on end for the race win.
Yeah, the second to last run, I kind of let him go away, and I did catch him, but I didn't want it to come down to whether or not my better tires could catch up to him, so I made the effort to at least keep him within arm's reach. But I knew the 28 was there, so I knew he was going to be fast, so I had to keep him in mind too. And right as I felt like I was really reeling him in, one of my teammates happened to be on the bottom of the racetrack, and he kind of, I think, got into AJ. I'm told it was nothing bad or anything. I think AJ may have just tried to go by him too soon or something, but I'm hurt. But yeah, that happened, and he kind of went up the racetrack. All 3 of us checked up. 28 wound up in front of us, and I think AJ's tire, he went a little bit too hard in that run, and I got by him somewhat easily, easier than it normally is to get by AJ Green. And then I just ran down the 28, and I knew it was going to be tough to pass him, and I also knew that I had to throw the nice guy mentality out of the way if I was going to win this race, and I had to do literally everything possible to win, and basically pulled it out by the skin of my teeth.
I think I might have had a huge voice crack at the end of that race because it was just an unbelievable finish. You guys were side by side for laps on end, and you said it right there, hard to pass the 28. I think it could not get harder than that, you guys being a side by side for so long. But now I think things definitely change into the picture because you came into this race more than 10 points below that cut line in the top 5. It looked like you said, you needed to do anything possible, and I believe those extra bonus points at halfway certainly helped where you were in that top 3 position. But now you basically throw a wrench into the whole playoff scenario. It looked like it was just going to be Drinking Bros Racing at the top. The 2 drivers advanced, Lawson Peel, and then Stonks Motorsports. But you come out of nowhere to enter yourself into the Championship 5. First of all, walk us through the reflection on that and how things are going to go moving forward now that you've basically shuffled the whole picture.
Yeah, I think for one, I think me and my buddies over at Southern Heat and our kind of affiliate team in Murray Reedy, we're I think kind of happy to have somebody in the playoffs that's not just wanted to do 2 more dominant teams. But yeah, I knew coming into this race there was no way I was going to make it finishing second or worse. AJ and Colin were too fast. I knew that they're going to bring their A game. They're going to finish top 5. I mean, it's not like there's 40 cars in the race and one of them's going to wreck out. So it was literally had to throw everything I knew about racing out the window and just figure out what was needed to win a race, even when it looked most dire.
You know, that move on the last lap reminded me of a fellow All-Star race that happened here at Charlotte. I'm not sure if you can remember back in the 90s where one car gets turned. It was a bump in the middle of the corner, and that was going to the race win at the end of all that. But Craig, of course, a fantastic way to finish off tonight's race in the round of 10 from the virtual Charlotte Motor Speedway. You're at the Championship 5. Before we get your thanks on everybody you got to send your thanks to at the end of this wild race. Championship 5 next week, 1.5 miler, Texas Motor Speedway. What are your thoughts, and how are you going to try to execute for a 4-Wide Racing Cup Series title?
It's my home track, so I'm hoping to go there in October to watch the real race, and it would be awesome to put a championship on that track. But yeah, I haven't really been that good at Texas as of late. I won 1 race in officials and at it, but definitely going to have to go back to the drawing board to figure out what works in these cars. They have never run these cars at Texas before, so I got a week to prepare, and just got to put the laps in like I did before this race, and just figure out speed, and then hopefully I'll just be there with in the last run and have a shot. I mean, that's all anyone can ask for in this sport. So nothing's guaranteed, and everyone has a chance to win.
That's definitely true, and you're going to be a part of that, confirmed now at a Charlotte Motor Speedway. Before we let you go on this win for the championship next week, Craig, anybody you want to thank for making tonight's run possible?
Always got to thank Tyler Murray for putting this league on. Hopefully he'll continue to put it on for many years to come, and I'll keep showing up hopefully. So thanking him, and then everybody came up and raced clean, and anyone that may have forgotten beefs we may have had in the past and then raced me clean. So yeah, just everyone who shows up to this league, I think it's just such a terrific league, and I haven't seen many leagues where it has this level of competition and people that don't have, well, how should I say it, like their thumb up their you know what. It's a lot of leagues like that, and this isn't one of them. So I think it's one of the better leagues out there.
So Craig, of course, on behalf of our team here at MaxSpeedTV, want to send you a huge congratulations on tonight's win. Of course, congratulations on advancing into the Championship 5, and best of luck going into Texas. We'll see you there next week.
Yeah, thanks.
So Craig Lounslager beats Jaden Porter by 7 1/1000ths of a second. And that graphic shows you all you need to know. 1 lap led tonight. That was the only lap that was necessary to reach the checkered flag first. Now it's our time to reach over to second place, Jaden Porter, the 28, who put up a scintillating fight for the race lead in the final laps and one of the quickest drivers all around. Jaden, I know, of course, the finish, not what you wanted at the end of it after being in the lead for a while. Before that, walk us through those final laps and your entire race overall.
Yeah, well, my race was up and down. The beginning of it was kind of like Nashville. I was like mid-pack, struggling for track position. Then I finally got track position, was able to stay in the top 4, basically all the way to midway. Then that last green flag stop, I decided I was going to pit whenever the front do pit because tire difference just meant so much today. And I had a really good entrance, got really close to him. obviously AJ had that issue with the lap car, and then presented us with an opportunity to win the race. And ending there, yeah, it was something. I'm not really too mad about it because he's a playoff driver and I need it for his playoffs. So I mean, it was pretty damn good finish, I thought, though.
An insane finish. You guys chasing each other to the quad oval grass. I don't think I've really seen that before in a long time with stock cars here at this virtual Charlotte Motor Speedway. But if there was one thing in common between yourself and Craig Lautenslager running for the finish, is that you two were the best when it came down to that deep, long run. Once you approached around 15, 20 laps, it looks like your cars really started to come alive. What came behind the approach to really have the best tires and the best speed in the last part of the run where a lot of drivers had some trouble?
Well, I feel like a lot of drivers really, whenever they get in dirty air, they struggle a little bit. I think sometimes me or maybe Craig will underdrive the car when we're in dirty air to make sure we don't get as much pushing with our right front on the car as much as others. And I think we're a lot more patient than a lot of other drivers. Not saying that other drivers, can't save tires, but I think a lot of them are just not that patient.
So the patience helps you at the end of this race, and then it just became a duel from there on out. It didn't even look like you guys had worn tires. You guys were 36 laps in a stint. I'd say that was almost another full green flag pit stop on the way if this race was a little bit longer, but still a great finish here tonight from the Charlotte Motor Speedway. And I think this only adds on to what's been a standout rookie season for you after getting the win at Nashville Super Speedway, and even before that, having some solid finishes through there. And now the final race approaches for Season 4, and Season 5 will be coming up sooner than later. So what's the approach for the final race at Texas, and what's going to be the approach in 4-wide moving forward as you enter what may be your first full-time season here?
Yeah, I think next week, if there's an opportunity to win the race, maybe, but I think mainly I'm just going to stay out of the way of the championship contenders. It's their race to battle for the win and for the championship, not really mine. So I'm more than likely probably just going to stay out of the way of those guys next week. Probably try to finish the best out of the non-championship contenders. But yeah, hopefully we can keep this consistency next season. We'll be right there in the championship battle, I think.
You're right in the mix for this win, and 7 1,000ths of a second was enough for P2, but I think still a lot of positives to move forward through after tonight's race going into Texas Motor Speedway. And of course, like you mentioned, the start of Season 5 for the 4-Wide Racing Cup Series. Before we let you go on the finish tonight from Charlotte, Jaden, anybody you want to thank for making tonight's run possible?
Yeah. I want to thank BBR Racing, Elevation Esports, everybody for just helping me get better at this and giving me a chance to do this.
We certainly appreciate the time, Jaden. I know it wasn't the win, but still, congratulations on the P2 tonight from Concord, North Carolina. We'll see you at Texas in 1 week time.
All right, thank you.
That's Jaden Porter in the 28, as that was the move for the race win. 29 laps led for the rookie. I think there is a lot of promise here for Jaden Porter, and we'll look back to the final interview of tonight's race. It's the 48 of AJ Green leading 129 laps. AJ, I know a tough one once again here from Charlotte. Just walk us through the last half of the race.
I mean, it went good. Strategy and everything. Getting the halfway points. So basically pointed my way into the playoffs. But I don't know, going around Ivy there and something happened. I don't know. He came, hit me in the rear, and I saved it, 0x. And tires were all burnt up anyways, and they passed, and now I could just be along for the ride and watch them battle, which was pretty cool. The other not so cool part was Craig winning and knocking out Colin, so I was the only stonks driver to make the next round, which sucks.
Now, of course, the defending champion, you're still going to be back in the championship fight for this season. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but back to the focus of this race. Obviously, a lot of speed, and this immediately reminded me, as soon as I saw it, the Darlington race, as dominant as you were, and you were just able to separate yourself from the field on many occasions on long runs. Again, just what went behind the speed here from Charlotte? Was it just the track surface? Was it the dynamics? Or was it just straight up the talent that you have behind the wheel to just separate yourself from the field, even your own teammates at points, to dominate this race up until the last half?
Well, I think I've gotten better at not overdriving the middle of the corner. This car is a lot of off throttle time and a lot of just brake dragging, and getting the car settled enough to where you get on the throttle, you don't get tight, hit the wall, and you just get a nice smooth line around the corner. I don't know. It may be just the car, and it kind of suits me better. The Gen 6 car suited me pretty good, but I guess this car I can just save the right front a little more, which is good.
Well, nonetheless, still a lot of speed out of the 48 machine tonight. I think you put this Marty Robbins paint scheme, and I don't know whether you got the inspiration of Marty Robbins, but the speed has been there. I mean, the speed's been there all season. The 2 wins are there for a reason at Richmond and Daytona, but it's still, even in the playoffs, it definitely stepped up. And I think, of course, unofficially with the point standings as it is, you are coming back to Championship 5 contention. You were the defending champion at Atlanta Motor Speedway when you got that title last season with the Gen 6 cars. Next gen this time around, running it back, but this time at Texas. What are your thoughts running for 2 in a row and trying to go back-to-back in the 48?
I could definitely do it. Texas is going to drive a lot like this track. Dirty air, lifting, and pressing the brakes. So I'll definitely do well there. I hopefully lap traffic is a little more smooth, and maybe some luck can play into it. It's never bad.
Well, still, nonetheless, a lot to look forward to, and I think, of course, Stonks Motorsports being the pillar that they've been in Season 3 to start off, and then you getting the championship, it's only continued that momentum going into the Championship 5 next week for the virtual Texas Motor Speedway. AJ, before we send you off for Texas and your celebrations on the 3rd place finish from Charlotte, anybody you want to thank?
Yeah, shout out to my parents, Tyler for hosting the league, you for broadcasting. Shout out to Stonks. We all put a good performance in. It just sucks that it didn't go our way for everybody. And yeah, hopefully I'll be here next week.
So 1 week from tonight, championship battle, and you're going to be part of it. Again, AJ, of course, congratulations on the 3rd place finish here tonight from Charlotte. Congratulations on making the Championship 5 for the 2nd straight season in a row, and we'll see you at Texas. Best of luck.
Thank you.
That's AJ Green in the 48, 129 laps led, and although it is not the race win for the 48, it is an entrance into the championship finale next week at the Texas Motor Speedway, and you can imagine that is more than good enough, even with Craig Lautenslager getting the race win. So many races crossed off, and Charlotte now officially crossed off with this win from Craig Lautenslager. And the last one is the one highlighted all the way in green at the bottom right. The Championship 5 finale on August 3rd, I believe that is on the screen. August 3rd for the Championship finale, live from the virtual Texas Motor Speedway. It'll be the first time, I believe, that Texas is the season finale for the 4 Wide Racing Cup Series. We've had our changes of intermediate ovals, Charlotte back in Season 2, Atlanta back in Season 3, so we get to go to Fort Worth, and the Cowboy State get to go for a Championship 5 drivers in it. And so far, unofficially, barring any changes from the point standings and, of course, your league owner, Tyler Murray, it will be Eric Schaefer, who locked in via the win from Darlington. It'll be Brandon Banks winning from Talladega, and Craig Lautenslager being the final one locked in the top 3 as he will join the fight for the championship. And then it will be Lawson Peel. He came into tonight with a 17-point gap. We'll take a look at the point standings just before this race started. This is how it looked before tonight, and it looks like AJ Green is going to stay in it by the skin of his teeth. Lawson Peel is going to stay in from points, and it's going to be Craig Lautenslager shooting up to 3rd on the standings. And by the time we get to Texas Motor Speedway, of course, Colin Forster, Lance Hill, Jesse Preece, Mark Harris, and Cody Kinsey are going to be the 5 eliminated from the Championship 5. So their seasons are officially over. They'll got to give a lot of props to them and their efforts throughout this entire season. But we have our 5. We have the drivers running for the championship, looking to hoist the trophy. And it came down to 0.7 of a second for one of them. Craig Lautenslager at the very end at a turn 4, giving the bump to the 28, going to the inside, and skipping through the grass for his first win of the year, and the one that'll bring him into the Championship 5. So that does it here tonight from the virtual Charlotte Motor Speedway. Of course, want to thank you for watching here tonight on MaxSpeedTV. It was an unbelievable race from start to finish, from the cautions to the long green flag run, and of course this finish that we will never forget in 4 Wide Racing Cup history. So for Tyler Murray and everyone from the admin team and race council for making these races happen each and every week, and from all of us here at MaxSpeedTV, for Francisco Bacallao, myself in the booth, Kenneth Bueno, saying good night from Concord, North Carolina, and congratulations to Craig Lautenslager, etching his way into the Championship 5. 5 drivers left, and we'll have one at the end of next week. Texas Motor Speedway, 1 week from tonight. We'll see you there.